France taking on Japan this weekend, folks. Autumn Nation Series game number 3. The French side returns to that kind of full-strength side that we know and love, which doesn't usually go on tour in the middle of the year. Dupont is back, Ramos is back, Aldrit is back, Pinot is back, and so on. For the Japanese, remember they played against the All Blacks a few weeks ago. They are now in Europe to take on a few different teams, starting off with the French. Eddie Jones has made a few changes. And both sides have a player named Tevita Tatafu. That must be, it's certainly a first for players named Tevita Tatafu to go up against each other. How often do you see two teams fielding players with the exact same name? That must be pretty rare. But we'll go through the squads, the recent history between the sides, the predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. On paper, this one's a bit of a mismatch, folks. It's ranked 4 against 14. The All Blacks beat Japan pretty comfortably just a few weeks ago. That was in Japan. So the fact that now Japan's on the road, one would assume the French, with all these big gun players being back, should be able to beat Japan pretty comfortably. But you never know. Sports is a funny thing. I mentioned the big guns are back for France. Baptiste Gros, Movaka and Tatafu, that's the French Tatafu, obviously, are in the front row for France. So I think that's Tatafu's first cap for France, so big congratulations to him. From memory, they took him on the middle of the year tour, but I'm not sure they had his eligibility criteria sorted at that point, but he is certainly French eligible now. So as I said, big congratulations to him. Movaka returns to the side. Baptiste Gros did actually play on the mid-year tour, so he is one of a few kind of surviving players from that middle of the year tour. Locks, Flamand and Meafou. There's some sizable beef in the likes of Meafou, and the skills of Flamand are second to not many. For a second row, he is really quite able to get up in the air. He's able to offload. He's just got a generally very good skill set. And then the back row of Gros, who's a tackling machine, Roumat and Aldrit. Good to see Aldrit back. He will, in all likelihood, lead the way for the French in the amount of carries made during the game. Dupont and Ramos, that's the old Toulouse 9-10 combo. Good to see Dupont back for the French 15 side after winning gold with the Sevens boys not too long ago earlier in the year. Obviously, there's no Intermac, which is why Ramos, I guess, gets the nod in the number 10 jersey. Moefana's at 12. Gaetan is another one of the survivors from the middle of the year tour. He continues on at 13. Pinot's there on the right. He'll be looking to get some more tries for France because he's right up there in terms of his strike rate. Louis Biarré is on the left. His footwork is something exceptional. And Barré, as Leo Barré, is there at fullback. He is the third of the remaining guys who played in the middle of the year over in Argentina. Other guys who are back, Marchand and Wardy on the bench. Georges-Henri Colombe continues on in the squad, although he was starting over in Argentina. He drops to the bench, likewise Guillard. Boudéon, the kind of versatile loose forward who could field in the back line in a pinch, is there in the number 20 jumper. Luku, Jalibert and Viku, the 3 back replacements. Haven't seen Viku on the bench for a while. Unusual, and Legarac apparently would have been potentially playing in this one, but unfortunately misses out due to injury. So that's a pretty strong French side, you'd have to say. For the Japanese, they've made a few changes from the side that played against the All Blacks. Okabe, Harada, and Takeuchi is the same props, but a different hooker with Harada being promoted. I don't know where Sakate is. I didn't see that he's injured, but he's not in the 23. They've got Matsuoka as the replacement hooker on the bench. He is not very experienced at test level, so I'm going to assume Sakate is for some reason unavailable, but with Eddie Jones, I am not 100% sure. Uleviti and Derns is a big lock-in duo. If you don't watch the Japanese team, keep an eye on Warner Derns. He is phenomenal. He's tall, he's rangy, he's quick for a guy his side, skilled. Almost scored a wonder try against the All Blacks, but it was chalked off for a prior knock-on. But he is unbelievable. So absolutely a guy to keep your eye on. Shimokawa up from the bench to start at number 6 for this one in the place of Amato Fakatava. So a little bit less size, but maybe a little bit more work rate around the park. Jimeno is at 7, and Makisi, who scored a nice try against the All Blacks, is at number 8. He's a kind of block-busting, ball-carrying number 8, so look out for him. Saito, who plays his rugby in the top 14, is at number 9, so he's into the 23. And Tatakawa, the veteran, captains the side from number 10. Fifita, so that's Siosaya Fifita, usually a winger for Japan, but I think plays his club rugby largely at 13. Is at 12 for this one, so into the midfield. We'll see how he goes on the defensive channels. Likewise, Dylan Riley continues on at 13. He is another one. If you're going to watch out for a guy, Great running lines, really elusive ball carrier, so certainly a danger man. Nakabula's on the right wing, Osada is up to the left wing, and then Malo Tuitama is an interesting call at 15 because I don't see him ever having played 15. I checked out his club stats over in Japan. It seems like for the most part he plays over on the left wing, but fullback, so potentially see a few high balls going his way to see how well he does. Matsuoka, as I mentioned, the replacement hooker. Morikawa and Tamefusa, the replacement props. They've dropped a little bit of size in terms of the props. Mfakatava, as I mentioned, drops to the bench, so he's kind of that lock-loose forward hybrid. He did start against the All Blacks, but as I said, not preferred against the French for this one. Tavita Tatafu, that's the Japanese version. The loose forward, he is on the bench, so potentially comes on. I'd love to see him and the other Tavita Tatafu on the field at the same time. That would just be special, wouldn't it? Fujiwara, Kajimura, and Matsunaga are the three back replacements, so both sides opting for a 5-3 split for this one. Some stats for you. France, they've been conceding some points this year. It's unusual. Like last year, I think we only saw France concede 30 points maybe once. Whereas this year, they've conceded 38 against Ireland. And I think Ireland, to be fair, has done that to them 2 years in a row in terms of getting 30 plus. But they conceded 31 against England, 33 against Argentina, and even 24 against Wales. I say against Wales because, I mean, they hammered Wales, but Wales have not been a prolific scoring team this year. So to concede 24 points against Wales was actually kind of high. So it's a potentially slightly concerning one for Galtier's boys. They still love an offload. That rate is really high. That hasn't changed under Galtier. But one thing that is good is their penalty count's really low. They're still averaging below 10 penalties a game. It's like 8. So very clean kind of on the discipline front. And it helps they got a big old pack. Like they regularly field a team which is 950 kilos plus. A couple of times they've topped 960 this year. They'll be looking to make that size count against the Japanese. Remembering the Japanese played the All Blacks recently and held up pretty well at scrum time, albeit with a pitch that was kind of tearing up a little bit, so maybe didn't give either team a full opportunity to show their full scrumming set of skills. But Japan, man, against New Zealand, way too many turnovers conceded. New Zealand were winning ball at the breakdown. Japan was coughing up stuff, and Japan's defense at times was really quite bad. They were missing, especially in the early period of the game, they were missing some really simple kind of fundamental tackles that you just couldn't miss. So they will certainly need to get that aspect of the game right. When they do get it right, they can look sharp. Like I mentioned, they've got proper game breakers in the side, but they need to get the fundamentals down and can't go out, miss a bunch of tackles and be 20 points down early against the French side, which fields the attacking power that they have. Recent history between the sides, it goes all back, if you're looking at the last 5 games, goes all the way back to 2011, so quite a long time ago now. What were you doing in 2011? I was not married and didn't have children, that is for sure. But there is one draw in the mix back in 2017. Japan came to France and managed to get a draw. Those sides are largely totally different from then. I think there's a couple of surviving players. Pierno, I think, was on the right wing for that game, and Dupont was on the bench. Serran was the starting 9 for France that day, and I think Jimeno was the blindside flanker. But barring that, I think these sides are pretty much wholly changed since then. But the average score across the last 5 games is 33-20. So 4 wins to the French, and there's a draw in the mix. France tend to beat Japan relatively easily, but as I mentioned, there's like 20 points to 15 game a couple of years ago, albeit it was a mid-year tour where France, again, didn't take their best squad. Predictions-wise for this one, France are favourites, massive favourites, 35 points. The bookies have got it, and Rugby Forecast algorithm slightly more conservative, saying 27 for France. It is on at the Stade de France. It is a 9:10 kickoff, so a late kickoff, but the French like the late kickoffs. I, for one, appreciate the French late kickoffs because that makes it a kind of 9 o'clock in the morning-ish for those of us here in New Zealand, so don't have to get up at stupid o'clock to watch this one. I think for Japanese viewers, that'll be a slightly earlier morning kickoff, but not middle of the night terrible. Damien Schneider, the Argentinian, is the ref. He's relatively inexperienced, but has refed a couple of tests during the kind of mid-year internationals. So fingers crossed he has a good game in what will, I think, be the biggest game he's ever refereed. So yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on this one. Can you see Japan keeping it within 10 points, or do you think France, with all their big guns back, will just be far too good? Similar scoreline to what the All Blacks put on. You guys let us know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.